Kellyanne Conway, she is the counselor to President Trump. She joins us from the North Lawn. Kellyanne, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, listen, we know that a week from today, the president will announce his pick for the justice to replace Anthony Kennedy. We can't really wait. Could you just give us a hint?
I would never do that, but this is the way this president works. His leadership means that things move very quickly in courting a momentous and historic decision such as this, nominating his second justice to the United States Supreme Court. Can't tell you who it will be. That's up to the president, but I guarantee you it'll be somebody who has fidelity to the Constitution, doesn't make up the law as they go along. In fact, doesn't make up the law at all, since that's the legislature's job and it's the judiciary's job to interpret the law. Too many judges these days in our federal courts, in my view, are making things up as they go along, legislating from the bench, subject to the polls, the protesters, the political whims. The fidelity is to the Constitution. If you don't like the Constitution, amend it. And so I guarantee you to be somebody who is in the mold of originals thinkers and somebody who shows fidelity to the Constitution. I also just want to say, this president, the moment he announced that he would be selecting a successor to Justice Kennedy's seat, he started in the advise and consent role with the Senate. He had Democrats and Republicans here as soon as he returned from his two-day trip to North Dakota and Wisconsin. And we appreciate those senators coming here and expressing their views on the process as well.
Kellyanne, if you talk to legal scholars who are strict constructionists or originalists and faithful to the Constitution, they look at the 1972 decision of Roe v. Wade and see it as legislating from the bench. They found a right that hadn't previously existed in the Constitution. Say what you want about abortion being legal or not legal. How much will the decision of Roe v. Wade and the view of a future justice factor into the president's decision on this pick?
Well, the president made very clear in the interview this weekend on Fox News that he's not asking people specific questions on cases. This president wants somebody who has great experience, deep intellect, wonderful judicial credentials. But I am just amazed how, yet again, the left boils every single thing, including a Supreme Court justice, down to one issue: abortion. No wonder the Supreme Court just last week held against the abortion folks and in favor of the crisis pregnancy centers out in California, and saying that crisis pregnancy centers don't have to tell someone that they can actually get an abortion if they're not choosing to. Unless you live under a rock with an eye mask and earmuffs on, I'm pretty sure you know that you can get an abortion in this country. So what's with the Commerce Clause? What's with all the amendments? We know that they're hostile to the Second Amendment, but what about the rest of them? The Supreme Court takes on any number of cases. And I think this is why you see a Democrat totally beholden to the abortion issue, almost to the exclusion of everything else. Is this why you have Democratic senators already who have said there is absolutely no one that this president can nominate to the Supreme Court that they will even meet with, that they will even consider voting for? How in the world can you say that when you don't even know the person's name?
They want it to be 4-4. They don't want a swing vote on it.
Well, that's too bad, and they should have elected their person president, I suppose. But at the same time, I want America to really understand the breadth of what our federal judiciary decides in a given year, in a given term. Look at the 21 U.S. Circuit Court judges that have been put on the bench by President Trump. That gives you a window into the soul of his selections. 1 in 8 U.S. Circuit Court judges, as we stand here, are Trump nominees. The alacrity with which he and Senate Leader McConnell and others have moved, our White House counsel's office obviously, have moved to get these vacancies filled in our circuit courts. That's the court system right below the United States Supreme Court. The cases get appealed to the Supremes. Got to use that expensive law degree once in a while. They are 1 in 8 of them are Trump appointees, and this is important to note because this is a very, very consequential step for any president.
Okay. Yeah, this is why a lot of evangelicals voted for him for this very issue. Now let's talk about Mexico. Mexico they went hard left. They voted a lefty down there to be the new president, and his name is Andres Lopez Obrador. The president, our president, tweeted out support of him, saying congratulations, hope we can work together. Is he seeking a good relationship because A, he wants Mexico to pay for the wall, and he wants that country to help us with our immigration issues?
The president is seeking a good relationship with leaders all over the globe. This is somebody who just 3 weeks ago was in Singapore to meet with Chairman Kim of North Korea. This is somebody who's set to go meet with President Putin again. This is somebody who is always looking to improve relationships in the pursuit of peace and prosperity. And in the case of Mexico, obviously, we share a border with them. This president has made very clear about building that wall and having Mexico pay for it. And he's been very clear about border security. We have too much poison, too many drugs coming over our border. Right. We obviously have a lot of folks coming over the border who shouldn't be here. And more importantly, I think when the president talks about border security, he's talking about us being a sovereign nation that actually has physical borders. How many billions of dollars have we spent over how many years helping other countries protect their sovereign borders? Sure. Americans think it's high time we do the same here. So he's reaching out to the new president of Mexico through his social media platform to say, I look forward to working with you, congratulations, and he means it.
Okay, speaking of immigration, there were 600 or 700 rallies across the country. Pete saw one down in Charleston over the weekend where, people are, among other things, saying it's time to abolish ICE. People simply did not like the separation of the families, and I know the reunification process is going on right now, but nonetheless, is that message, and you're a pollster, you see a lot of motivated people in the streets, is that a good message for Democrats, or do you think it could make the party look weak on security, which is key for swing voters?
This is a very simple binary choice. You're either for a sovereign nation that has a border, or you're for open borders, and a lot of the crime that comes with that. And the call for the abolition of ICE, in my view, is the intersection of arrogance and ignorance. And it's also all of these people preening for leverage in 2020. Really, folks, because what exactly have you done in 2018 that you're worried, or 2017 for that matter, that you're worried about 2020? You've got smarter, I think, more senior Democrats like Senator Blumenthal of Connecticut this week saying he doesn't think that calling for the abolishing of ICE is a fruitful exercise, pushing back against folks like Kirsten Gillibrand, the senator from New York who not so long ago was a center-right member of Congress. For her to call for Cynthia Nixon to refer to ICE as a terrorist organization, those brave men and women in immigrations and custom enforcement are doing their job. ICE was created in 2003 in response to 9/11, to the non-criminal aliens that executed that awful terror attack on America. Mm-hmm. And these folks are trying to execute on immigration and customs enforcement in many ways. Last year, for example, they confiscated about 2,500 pounds of fentanyl. That is a synthetic opioid, 50 times the potency of heroin, 100 times the potency of morphine. That was enough fentanyl, ladies and gentlemen, to have killed every American.
Oh, my goodness.
They just in Kirsten Gillibrand's New York recently, ICE apprehended 40 criminals. So the idea that you would abolish ICE seems to me to be a very unfortunate talking point. But look, if the Democrats are running on that, I think you've got Maxine Waters attacking Chuck Schumer. You have Dick Blumenthal attacking Kirsten Gillibrand, and the woman who just won in the Bronx view on ICE.
Civil war inside the Democratic Party.
And by the way, Bill de Blasio is running to the border. You're mayor in New York, running to the border. Abolish ICE, abolish ICE. Have you looked around lately? He's got a lot of problems in his own city. Yeah. He can stay there and correct them and help the people in need there.
Well, or maybe he's running for president. We'll see.
Could be. All right, Kellyanne, have a great 4th of July.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Happy
Kellyanne.
Independence Day to America.